So, welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home. I'm Benjamin Lindsay, Managing Editor at Backstage. The SAG-AFTRA Foundation has a COVID-19 relief fund to support SAG-AFTRA performers who are in urgent need of this pandemic continues. Since March of 2020, the foundation has given over $6.1 million in aid to 6,500 performers and families facing extreme hardship. If you are a SAG-AFTRA member and you need help, please ask. And if you are able to help support our community and this crucial effort, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Tuppence Middleton, Joseph Cross, Jamie McShane, Monika Gossman, Tom Burke, and Ferdinand Kingsley from the ensemble of Netflix's Mank. So thank you everyone for joining us today. As I said, I'm Benjamin Lindsay, Managing Editor at Backstage. Let's go around and just say where everyone is calling in from in the world. Just introduce yourselves for our audience and where you're calling in from.
Hi.
Tuppence, we'll start with you.
I'm Tuppence Middleton and I'm dialing in from London, England.
My turn. Hi, I'm Ferdinand Kingsley. I'm also dialing in from southeast London.
I'm Tom Burke. I'm dialing in from Kent, England.
I'm Jamie McShane. Oh, hello? You go. Ladies first.
Hi, I'm Monika Gossman and I'm in Florida, Gainesville.
Hi, I'm Jamie McShane and I am in Burbank, California.
I'm Joe Cross and I'm calling from New York.
All right, so we have quite the international call here. Thank you everyone for making the time to chat about this awesome movie. Such a big fan of your work here. I guess a good place to start would be just to kind of riff on how you got started and what the most exciting prospect of working with David Fincher on kind of this extraordinary period piece was. So Tuppence, if we want to start with you, just how did it come across your desk? What made you want to get involved? And then everyone else, feel free to jump in with their own experience of the film.
Well, I think the chance to work with David Fincher on anything was a plus, something that I didn't think I'd do. So that was the first thing I heard. And then the project just started sounding more and more appealing. And I originally read for Lily Collins's part because, of course, she's British and that's the kind of natural thing, I suppose, being a British actor. So I didn't, the usual story. I did a self-tape, sent it off into the ether, didn't hear anything for several months, which I thought was quite normal. And then they came back and asked me to read for Sarah. So that was quite a surprise. And then even more of one when I got it.
As it goes, one thing leads to the next. That's right.
Yeah. And then it was all very quick. It felt like then 2 weeks later I was in LA and in the rehearsal room, which was really nice because you don't always get to have rehearsals. That was a real bonus.
Yeah, for everyone else, I mean, I know that this was a very long gestating passion project for director David Fincher. So what just generally, what was it like and the most exciting part about bringing it to the screen with him? Anyone feel free to jump in.
I thought it was a great script. I thought it was tonally very varied and there was so much pathos, but there was also, it was very witty and funny in places and you couldn't quite tell where it was going, even though you kind of had this sense of what the arc was because it was, because of everything it was based on. And I just found it highly unusual tonally and that was really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I found it really surprising as a script that had the name Fincher on it, because I think if you'd sort of given it me blind and given me 100 guesses as to who would be directing it, I wouldn't have got to David's name, and so that obviously that combination of unexpected ingredients is always really exciting. Plus also anyone who pretends they wouldn't want to work with someone of David's caliber is lying or stupid.
And did everyone know going in kind of what the goal of this project was, what the product was going to look like, black and white, what the acting style was going to be. I feel like it is such a unique film. So how much did you know about going in, just what the project would actually demand of its actors?
Well, my webcam broke while I was talking to David in my audition, so I missed most of it. So I just make
It was my very first Zoom call ever, so it was doubly nerve-wracking.
Yeah, mine too.
But I had no idea it was going to be black and white, or that it was going to have that kind of the full kind of crackle that the sound's got, or anything. Yeah, I didn't realise that till way later.
I think also David's someone who's so meticulous with his research, and especially because this is a passion project and something that he's had in the bank for so long, and it has that kind of familial connection, then I think it was something that he knew inside out. So I'd heard that it was going to be shot in black and white, and I'd heard a little bit about Herman's story, which I didn't know much about at all before this. But the really nice thing was, as soon as we kind of got there, I felt that David knew everything that we could possibly ever ask. And that's what's sort of great about him as a filmmaker, is that he knows everyone's job as well as they do. So it feels like you feel in really safe hands. He's really prepared, and just a kind of fountain of knowledge. I guess I suppose that's how he works on every film, but for this it was extra special because of his dad having written it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to get to the actual acting process of it all, I'm especially taken with the fact that a lot of the performances kind of match the style of Golden Age Hollywood performances. It doesn't feel contemporary, but in the best way. Was that a unique challenge for anyone joining me today in terms of calibrating your performance in a way that you might not necessarily be used to?
I remember Orson Welles said somebody asked Orson Welles why he liked James Cagney so much, and he said he's not real, but he's true. And I think there's a certain thing that people like James Cagney of that era do, which is very distilled, and it is completely timeless. It doesn't age in the way that sometimes attempts more at naturalism do, because they have the colloquialisms of their time. And so, yeah, it was really exciting knowing that was kind of the milieu that we were going for. And he wants you to do something very distilled on the day, I think. I mean, there's an awful lot of, precision and excavation going on, but at the same time, there's also the kind of but keep still thing, which I'm really not very good at. And that was a really exciting challenge.
Yeah. I especially like the idea of distilling your performance. Does that echo with anyone else's experience on this film, to kind of need to keep that in mind when the cameras are rolling?
Well,
I mean, not sorry, mate. Not least because you're doing it a lot of times naturally because of the way David shoots it. So if you're doing more than you need to, then that's firstly it's a waste of energy that you're going to need later in the scene or the day. And it is kind of like he's chiseling at it. He's sort of getting rid of anything that isn't serving what he needs. And then by the last take, he always tended to say, just give me one that's fast and simple, and just trust that the work you've done is in there. I found that really reassuring, coupled with the sort of the trust that he trusts his taste a lot, and he trusts his instincts, so that there is something sort of intrinsic in us as actors that he was looking for to sort of solve a problem in his film. And the confidence that gave me really helped.
Tuppence,
were you going to add anything yourself?
Nothing of any value, but I was just going to say that when I felt like I watched it back after having worked on it, and suddenly thought, oh, everyone's in a Hollywood. I suddenly thought about, you're always so critical of your own performance watching it back, but I thought maybe there was a conversation that I was outside for, where everyone was in the same film and I wasn't. I felt like that Hollywood style was so present in everyone's performance, and I was like, maybe I didn't do that. That was my about that sort
That's
of Hollywood
that's
style. I was like, ooh, maybe I
yeah, that's funny because I had the same thing.
Oh, really? That's so funny.
Yeah, because I felt like oh, wait a minute, am I doing the right thing here? Because
Yeah.
this character was pretty close to who I am as me, which is rare for me. And but he never said anything. So then I thought, well, all right, this guy's Shelley's kind of the everyman, and he's not, he's not one of the big shots or anything like that. And maybe that was the reason, but similar to what Tuppence just said.
I don't remember him ever sort of directing a style. The closest thing I can think of to that was in a rehearsal when we were working on some dialogue, when he said something like, "This isn't Sorkin dialogue, so we don't deliver it like Sorkin dialogue." That's the closest I ever remember to there being a sort of stylistic note. I don't think that's really how he works.
I think the incredible key with the whole thing was that there was rehearsal, and you went through stuff. And even when you got to rehearsing the scene on the set that day, I felt that David was very open to anything in rehearsal. And then once he locked it down, it was locked down. He would bring some changes in, this and that. But it's so rare you get rehearsal, and Gary had commented upon that. And it just makes such a huge difference. And the amount of rehearsal we got was pretty incredible.
And especially with some of these set pieces, I imagine that rehearsal is necessary. I mean, there's so many moving parts, so many characters. But between long rehearsal periods, and from what I understand and what everyone in the industry knows, is Fincher likes to take a lot of takes. What was this a tiring process at all, in terms of keeping the stamina, keeping everything moving along?
Well, it ends up being like actor boot camp. You can kind of do anything afterwards.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I went through, for me, it felt like almost like you get to take 17, 18, and you're feeling like you're just physically uncomfortable. Like you don't get there very often, and your like internal clock doesn't really understand why. And then you get to take 32 and 33, and I felt like I could do this all day long. Like we can just shoot this one thing and that's fine. So it was an exercise in stamina.
Yeah, I should say so. And Joseph, while I have you, I really liked that scene when the screenwriters are pitching their horror film. Can you just talk to me a bit about what filming that was like? I feel like it's a very memorable scene, and that it's a peek inside what that process historically did look like in the studio system. So what was your favorite part about filming that?
Well, I had the easy job because I didn't have to smoke a cigar.
Fair.
Everybody else was smoking cigars. So those guys were going through, like, I think a lot of cigars, like, 5, 6, 7 an hour. And we did a really long day that day, like 15 hours. But that was a great scene. I mean, it's a great script, and you're talking about sort of the style and how you find it. You really find it in the writing. With David there to steer it during the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Monika, to hear from you a bit, some of my favorite scenes in the film you share with Gary Oldman. What's it like working opposite him? Obviously, he's such a storied actor, such a great talent. Do you feel like you picked up any tricks to the trade while going toe-to-toe with him?
I mean, he's an amazing partner. He always is helping you. He's always acting. He's never resting. That's the biggest that I took from him, because there are sometimes you feel like, okay, I can only do 30% or so, especially if I'm not on camera. But he's that kind of partner who's always 100% with you. And same with Lily. I mean, these were the people, and same with set. Everyone that was on set just had one goal, to be always. It felt like a theater, to be honest. Like, especially our little group of the people who were in Victorville in the ranch. It felt like a small theater that we're always in, rehearsing and then performing. So it was a very amazing experience. Yeah. So all the takes, never-ending takes, it's so fulfilling if you like theater work, and I come from theater. Then it's like rehearsal process, and you just deepen the process. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of looking at this film as a sprawling ensemble, I really think that it's one of the strongest of the year. This is just a snippet of some of the great performers that pop up in this. What about that process kind of contributing to that larger machine? Everyone has their spot, every character hits their mark. What about contributing to that is especially exciting as an actor versus something that might be a two-hander or something that's a smaller project? Was that an exciting prospect for you guys as performers to be part of something larger like that? And anyone feel free to jump in on that one.
I've always felt happiest in that kind of situation. I mean, Tuppence and I were in War and Peace, and I remember it was so exciting knowing that whatever the end product was, it wasn't. There was all these scenes one hadn't been in that you were able to enjoy in a different way than when you're just watching yourself, because you're watching like that. And I don't know, it's just a lovely feeling somehow. And it's less, it's just great.
Yeah, I found like it kind of helped me get out the way of myself a little bit. I mean, I'm talking as if I'm the lead part in everything else I do, which is
you're not
shockingly not true. But yeah, I mean, it's really nice to be able to focus on like really intently on your thread of the story, knowing that your character might be totally unaware of some of the other threads, and then to watch the sort of the puzzle come together as the film's made, and as you watch it back, is just like, oh, firstly, the whole thing's not about me, which is weird, and and secondly, like my whole story is what you see is just the little sort of tip of the iceberg, which is really liberating, I think.
And anyone else would like to add? Jump in there.
I was always impressed by David being able to see for every actor their like the character's behavior, their physical behavior also. I was just so impressed by him being able to see all of it, like to the smallest detail. And also him being able to, or that he allowed to argue with him, like, to prove a point. And he was never set in one point. He just gave you ideas. And then you could also distribute to that. And you might not, I remember one part where he disagreed with me. And then he came back and he said, no, I think you're actually right. And this is something where I love that process when it's not a fight, but it's a little, sparring for the project and that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like sometimes that friction can lead to some pretty creative sparks flying, certainly. Yeah. Is that rare in your experience on stage and screen to be able to have that dialogue with creators that you're working with? Was that special to David?
Yes, I would say so, yeah. I mean, 50-50. Sometimes, someone has an idea and that's it. And it just shows what kind of director he is.
Jamie, I was going to jump in and ask about your character because he's one of the few fictional roles that exist in this old Hollywood. So what was your dialogue with David like, and kind of figuring out what he was going to look like and bringing him to life for the camera?
My dialogue was, I've looked everywhere, I can't find this guy. He goes, he's not real. So that was the start of it. Shelley was based on a bunch of people that they sort of melded into one person. And, David just told me in the beginning certain things about the character. And then when we got to set, he would, tweak it, but he really let me just kind of be, it was like I said, it was a character that I felt was closer to me being me than a lot of other characters I've played, which is very strange.
So that's to say the characters you've played in the past are pretty far extensions from you.
Some have been, very far extensions, but this was this was just such an incredible experience. I felt like everyone that was on the job knew that this was something really unique and special. And David is just, he's so intelligent, but he's really funny. He's a really funny guy. And there's just so much detail in his head that he's trying to get everyone to understand, whether it's camera, lighting, acting, whatever. And it's really an incredible experience to be a part of.
Absolutely. Well, for anyone else on this call, I'm Ferdinand, for instance. I know that you're playing Irving, and he is a rather well-known figure as well. Was that a point of stress to get it right, to do justice to any real figures, the research, just because
everything is a point of stress.
Yeah,
you just spend your whole career trying not to mess it up. Although Irving's funny because his whole energy was directed towards being the definition of behind the scenes. Like, he didn't want to be famous as Irving Thalberg, the character. He didn't put his name on the films he produced, and there's about 5 seconds of audio recording of him talking. There's very, very, very little. So there is a pressure to like a responsibility to represent this guy who did exist and had a massive impact on the industry. But then there was something kind of freeing I found, or at least I told myself, that these characters are people we're seeing like very much through Mank's eyes. It's not, we weren't trying to make a historical document or something that is indisputably the definitive version of what these people were like when they were around. It's how the film shows them how Mank remembers them, and so they're naturally going to be kind of distorted by memory and larger in some ways than they may have been in real life. So that was kind of takes a bit of the pressure off, because you realize actually you're trying to achieve something for the film and for the story and for the memory that Mank is sort of getting lost in, and you're not trying to do the carbon copy clone impression of this guy that was around.
Yeah, no, it's definitely allows for a certain amount of freedom versus you actually being rigid in your mimicry of what this guy
did. I mean, obviously you don't want to like go too wild and say, right. No, actually I'm rewriting history and I want him to be like this. You do have responsibility in that regard. But again, it wasn't like David wasn't isn't the kind of director who would sit there and go, Irving actually would move his eyebrows differently to you. It's all about getting the story right rather than being making a scripted documentary.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, as a final group question, I'd love to go around. We're entering our final minutes here. This is a conversation, of course, for the SAG-AFTRA Foundation. The audience are going to be the working actors of the world, just like you guys. Can we go around and remember what the project was that first got you your SAG-AFTRA card, and something that you might remember from that period, something from the project period, what have you? Anything that comes to mind from that time?
This one.
This was your SAG-AFTRA card?
This is my SAG-AFTRA job. Yeah.
I thought that might be the case with some of the Brits in here. I wasn't sure though.
And the German.
I'm not totally sure, but I think I did a Night Shyamalan's first movie called Wide Awake, like 24 years ago or something like that, when I was just a kid, and that was my I've been a dues paying member ever since.
Right, doing it ever since. And Jamie, what about you?
Mine was, I had just started acting in January 1990, and not long after that, I literally saw an agent. I was on rollerblades trying to get an agent, and I was in an elevator, and I asked this one agent, "Are you so-and-so?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Go on this audition right now." It was for a reality, like a Cops, where they reenact a murder thing. It was called Missing Reward. And they had to have two guys play twins. And this was before cell phones and cameras. And I went into this audition. They said, "Great, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "I have a younger brother who looks just like me." And out of just my word, they cast me and my younger brother, and that got me my SAG card. And
wow,
my brother was never an actor and never has been.
not bad. That's quite the story. Yeah. well, that question, I guess I didn't think it through, because we do have London performers here. Of course, this might be your first time with SAG-AFTRA, but to continue that walk down memory lane, is there anything from the early days of either of your careers that you wish you knew back in the day when you were first getting your start? What's something that you've learned along the way that you wish you knew back then? And
I wish I knew I was going to have success.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that just that no matter how long you do it, and no matter how huge someone becomes, no one is that confident. Everyone's kind of always terrified, and it always feels like the first day at a new school every time you start a job. And like at the end of a shoot day, sometimes I would ride back with Gary and he'd be like, was that okay? And it's like, yeah. It was really good. Like, you just you never lose that thing, I think, which is important to have, because if you lose it, then you I think lose your perspective on reality, and you don't keep fighting to be better. But I think, everyone's going through it.
I want to pick up there. I'm a professor at the University of Florida. I'm teaching acting, and sometimes I see actors or like students feeling already what Tuppence is referring to, like in the third year, feeling like I know how it all runs. I'm confident, and I got it now. And I think this is so great what you just said, Tuppence, that it never ends. And this, like, I'm seeing that, unfortunately, sometimes with students, that they have a wrong impression of how the future is going to look like in terms of, I understand it after 3 years.
Yeah, can anyone relate with Tuppence on that one?
Yeah, I think it never goes away. I don't think it should ever go away. The sort of awareness that you're lucky to be doing what you're doing, and there's 100,000 other people out there who could probably do it just as well as you. So enjoy it, and if you can possibly stick at it in the year that you're unemployed, stick at it.
Fair enough.
A job like this might come along, after a year of not working, which is what it did for me.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, just looking through my questions here, that is all I have for you today. So Tuppence, Joseph, Jamie, Monika, Tom, and Ferdinand, on behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, we want to thank you for joining us and for sharing your experience, process, and craft with your fellow performers. Really appreciate your time. Everyone stay well, and congrats on this film. It's really astounding.
Thank you.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you
very much. Great to see everybody.